Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here today in Karlovac, Croatia, at the HS Produkt factory, taking a look at some of the developmental pistols in the factory's production history. And today, we've come to the point where we're taking a look at the HS95. This is the pistol that followed the Croatian PHP. If you haven't seen the previous video on the PHP, it might be worth taking a look just to get the proper context for where this is coming from. The PHP was successfully produced, but was a pistol that had a lot of technical issues, and it was expensive to manufacture. And even before production on the PHP ended in 1995, IM Metal, the name of the factory at that point, they're now HS Produkt, IM Metal was already working on developing something that was newer, modern, and a lot more economical to produce. Now that they'd gotten their feet wet with actual serial pistol production, they had a much better idea of how to design a pistol for production. And so what they did was actually look to Zastava in Serbia. They took the CZ-99 pistol and essentially copied it, but made it look a bit more like a SIG P229. So they made the gun a little bit smaller and changed some of the aesthetics a bit. Partly this was to reduce bulk, and partly it was frankly to make it look a bit less Serbian. Serbia was not the most popular country in the world in Croatia in 1995, weirdly. And so the gun that comes into production is now a simple Browning tilting barrel instead of the old P38 style pivoting locking block. It is far simpler to take apart, it's a far more durable pistol, and it would be really more successful in virtually all regards. So let's take a look at what this is and how it works. Where the PHP was a pistol with some significant character to it, for better or worse, the HS95 has moved squarely into the form of standard, traditional, modern hammer-fired pistol, or certainly at the time in the late 90s. So one cool element of this is the controls are completely ambidextrous. We have magazine release on both sides here, and it can be pushed either direction, doesn't matter. The magazine is 15 rounds, double stack, single feed. Interestingly, it is almost exactly the same magazine body as the PHP. However, this uses a magazine catch that is only located on the front wall of the magazine. That's how it's easily made ambidextrous. The PHP has a catch on the side. So you cannot use an HS95 magazine in a PHP, but you actually can use a PHP magazine in an HS95. And I don't know if that was something that was specifically useful to the Croatian Army, but it might have been. The other control here is this single lever, and this is the concept here is largely taken from the Walther P88. This is a combination of decocker and also slide release. So there you go, two functions in one lever. That's nice, and the lever is present on both sides of the gun. So the only thing that's not ambidextrous is this, and that's simply a takedown lever. The gun is pretty wide and bulky in the hand, partly because of the magazine and partly because there are some rather thick grips on it. The slide is shortened a bit compared to the CZ-99. It is, like I said, more like a SIG P229 length. Basic fixed sights there, nothing to move around. Disassembly is quite nice and straightforward. We're just going to lock the slide open, pop the disassembly lever down there, and then the slide comes right off the frame. Pretty much nothing out of the ordinary here. And in the slide, you've got a mainspring, not captive for what it's worth, and a barrel, and the slide itself. Worth pointing out here, the barrel, like the PHPs, is screwed into its chamber extension, and this is because at this point, HS Produkt still didn't have the tooling to hammer forge their own barrels. So they were buying barrels from outside. I believe this was from Lothar Walther, and then screwing the barrel into their own manufactured chamber area. That process would in fact last through just the early bit of production of the HS2000 before they were able to bring barrel manufacturing in-house. It's actually one of the cool things about HS Produkt today is that they manufacture essentially everything in-house, from slides and frames and barrels and springs and small parts to even elements like having like a mini factory within a factory that makes all of the tools for, or all of the cutting tools for their machines. Let's take a quick look at the markings. We have an HS little logo in the grip panels. And then we have HS again up on the slide. There is no 95 anywhere on the gun, it's just marked HS. The serial number here is higher than actual production because this is a military specified serial number, not something that was specifically assigned by the factory to count the number of HS95s that they made. And on the right side, the only marking we have is caliber 9x19 on the barrel. Production of the HS95 would run from 1995 until 1998. This is, once again, a pistol that they started working on a replacement for very shortly after actually putting it into production. They knew that there was still improvements that could be made. In particular, they wanted to get away from metal frames entirely and move to a polymer framed design, which they would do with the follow-up HS2000. At any rate, this was adopted by the Croatian Army. In fact, it was only sold to the Croatian Army. As far as I know, there were no export contracts of the HS95. A total of somewhere between 15 and 20,000 were manufactured, although, as you saw, the serial number isn't actually a sequential production number of HS95. There were a number of small incremental improvements made during the production process, but nothing of significant substance. So there's basically only one pattern of HS95s. So pretty cool to get a chance to take a look at one of these. Because there were no export contracts, they are really quite rare to find outside of Croatia today. So a big thanks to HS Produkt for giving me access to this one to film for you guys. We'll have one more video in this series, and that will cover the polymer framed HS2000s that followed this. Thanks for watching.